Today we're going to work with IBM's Cloud Pak for Data to perform a data engineering task. The first thing I'm going to do is select from my Cloud Pak for Data navigation menu my task inbox so that I can see the tasks that I've been assigned by my leadership team. So as you can see here, I'm working on this project for a new data product where I need to mix together CGIS person data and CGIS dealer data. Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and create a new project to tackle this task. We're going to call this a sample data engineering project. In this project space, I can bring in metadata about data assets or collaborators to help me work on the project and build orchestration pipelines for more complicated work. This is done in a secure way, which is audited by my leadership team in case I need to prove the provenance of data. So the first thing I'm going to do is add in my inputs and outputs into this project. So I need to connect to a couple of different Amazon S3 buckets, which you'll see here I've already defined. So my person data is in Kurt's bucket. We're going to create that. And my dealer data is in a different S3 bucket. So we're going to go ahead and add that asset as well. I can find these in my IBM data catalog, or I can use other methods to find them. Like in this case, I'm just going to share them within my project. And then I need a target. So I'm going to create one more data connection because I want to land this for my user in a DB2 warehouse. So I'm going to go ahead and just click DB2. Here's my scratch space, and I can go ahead and create that. Now, there are two ways to do data engineering within a project. One is simple and easy, and the other is industrial strength, fast, but takes up more resources. So as an example, if I wanted to import a data asset from either my desktop or from one of those S3 buckets, I can go ahead and navigate to the asset here and bring this data in, and you can see what it looks like. We're going to go ahead and import. All data in this is completely fabricated based on available information online, so there's no actual data here. Alright, our data is importing. Now, what I want to do is go ahead and refine that data set by using the tools built into my project. So I'm going to click on my data asset. I'm going to click Prepare Data. And this is going to drop me into a data preparation workbench. So this area is powered by technologies like R and Spark to help me prep this data. So you can see that I've automatically assigned data types, and then I want to add some new steps. So I can do things like pivot data, remove empty rows, do math, do joins, and of course some natural language things. Now this is a great way to work with very simple requests with small data sources. However, what we want to do requires a little bit more engineering. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this, go back to my data engineering project, and I'm going to go ahead and click New Asset so that I can go ahead and create a new Datastage job. So we'll call this Example Data Engineering Flow. And what I'm going to do in this step is analyze some data, pull it out of my project, and land it into my Scratchpad. So you can see here at the top I've got the ability to save my job, compile it, and then run it. Datastage is a highly parallel engine, so we can scale to any amount of data. So we can connect to also all different kinds of data sources, including REST APIs, traditional data sources, multi-structured data sources like MongoDB. In our case, I've already defined these, so I'm simply going to pull the asset browser over to the canvas, tell it which assets I'm interested in analyzing. In this case, I want my data from my bucket. I'm going to click Add, and it's going to recognize this as an S3 connection. Now the other thing we want to do is land this someplace. So I'm going to have a target that we draw over here. Remember, I've already added that connection to my DB2 database, and I'm going to land it in the test schema, which you can see here. And then usually when you process data, you want to actually do things to it. So for example, you can do all kinds of highly sophisticated things like encoding, filtering, sorting, creating slowly changing dimensions, pivoting, anything you can imagine. In our case, we're going to do something simple. We're going to go ahead and take a transformer. So this is the extract, transform, and then the load. And then we're going to sort the data, just to show another interesting piece. I connect up these data sets. There we go. And then I verify the settings for each data set. So let's go in and take a look at person. We can see the stage properties. We can look at the output. This looks like the output that I want. We're going to go ahead and propagate those runtimes. Take a look at my transformer. In the transformer, I can do hundreds of different functions. Anything you can imagine to do to data, you can do it, and then you can create it in loops and whatnot. And you can see my inputs and outputs, so that looks good to me. Then we want to sort the data, so let's go ahead and add a sort key. Add key. I'm going to select it by date. That way we can get some nice clustering around date times. Apply. And we can actually tell it where we want this to sort. In our case, we're going to have Datastage do it. Datastage will intelligently select the database if possible. So extract, load, and then transform. And then of course we're going to land it in our data set. So we're going to see, we want to insert data. We want to have it in this schema named test. And we're going to call this test 3, just as an example. Save. I don't need this connection. This is extraneous. So I'm going to go ahead, save it, and compile it, just like you would anything. We do this because we're actually compiling some very advanced parallel code, so I can scale this up from 1 core up to hundreds of cores, depending on the types of transformation I need to do, the types of joins I need to do, and the types of run I need to do, and which speed. Then I'm going to go ahead and click run. So I like to open up the logs, but you can see our run has been submitted. We're going to go ahead and look at the logs down here, and you can see the different processing going on in the background in the event that there's any issues. And what this is going to do is reach out to S3, pull it into our Datastage engine, make the process massively parallel, sort the entire data set based on the column I selected, and then finally deliver it into DB2. All of this is running in a highly governed environment where I can determine who can run this. I can determine what changes were made, and everything is tracked from a metadata lineage perspective as well. So you can see my run is successful, and I now have data sitting in my DB2 database. Now, one other thing to note is that the person actually said they wanted to merge this data. So an example that brings it a little bit more complexity is if we want to go ahead and search on a join or a merge. Let's go ahead and bring in a join. Let's go ahead and grab our other connector here. So we had our dealer data sitting in our other S3 bucket. So we're going to go ahead and select dealers and then grab this data set. And now I can redirect this link over to my join, transform, and my join logic you would simply input here in terms of adding in those keys. This is all done in massive parallel, and you're able to successfully then join that data and deliver it. So I can go back to my inbox and go ahead and say complete, put in the DB2 scratch database under table 3. And we're done.